Poland. So there's been a huge problem with uh, immigration, you could say. There's been the so-called border crisis, which started under the tutelage of the old Polish government, Law and Justice, which involved many different things like the infamous visa scandal, in which the Polish government would push back people that would be refugees seeking asylum, and after pushing them to the Belarusian side, via shell companies, they would offer them visas to get into the country for $5,000 or something. It would get a little bit complicated because those $5,000 would be paid in big incremental fees. Those incremental fees would actually first get you on the list to get a visa, and it would not guarantee you in the slightest that you would actually end up getting the visa. So people would, there was a possibility for people to be desperate enough to spend thousands of dollars potentially and never get the visa that they would be signing up for. There were situations in which they would, because for a visa to be valid, they need to have a person that would hire them. So they would be promised a job, and then they would go into the country, and it would turn out that the person that was supposed to hire them didn't even exist. So that's basically how that whole visa scandal worked out. There was a huge problem with mistreatment. People were trapped in the so called no one's land, which is this sort of neutral piece of territory between borders of nation states. And there were people would try to get from Belarus to the forests and swamps of Poland and then move on to Western Europe. There were instances of people dying. There were instances of children eating poisoned mushrooms because they were so hungry that they would go out and look for food themselves. And of course, the Law and Justice Party government would forbid medics from going to those people that were trapped in no one's land. They would prohibit people from giving them food, assistance, or anything. It was a very big humanitarian crisis. There was a very famous documentary made on it. It's called The Green Border. I recommend people to watch it. It's a very telling piece of work. And of course, it's all discussed in the context of the so called hybrid warfare, in which it is said that Belarus and Russia are sending floods of immigrants in order to um, destabilize the European Union. This is where we sort of are when where this topic is involved. And as much as the new government before it got to power criticized the Law and Justice government when it comes to the handling of the border situation, the handling of the refugees, the handling of people that attempt to come to this country. Um right after getting into power, the new government did not do much to improve the situation. In fact, there is this pretty insidious, like, there's this very bad thing that both the past government did and the current government does when basically all people seeking refuge are being framed as tools of hybrid warfare, you know? Like, there are no genuine people that want to just come into the country running away from a bad situation that want to start anew. No, all of them are evil tools of the so called hybrid warfare of Russia and Belarus. And this leads us to Poland deciding to temporarily suspend the entire process of people being able to seek asylum in Poland. This is where we are right now. I'm giving you a very big TLDR of the situation, but that this is basically where we are right now. We have a little bit of an article. We have two articles that go over this. Poland will temporarily suspend the right to asylum as part of its migratory policy to tackle illegal migration, particularly at the border with Belarus, Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said. But this is a little bit of a misunderstanding, since once you seek asylum, then you're not exactly an illegal immigrant anymore. You're part of a pretty legal procedure at that point once you seek asylum. So it's just I'm not sure if it's even honest completely to frame people that seek asylum as illegal immigrants, you know? Since seeking asylum is actually a pretty legal route, route to getting into the country. Meanwhile, Russia and Belarus say that people fleeing to Poland are tools of hybrid warfare against Russia. Sag. Tusk made the statement at a convention of his civic coalition, KO, grouping, the backbone formation of the governing coalition, addressing the growing issue of illegal migration at the Poland-Belarus border. Tusk said the government must regain 100% control over who enters and leaves Poland. But seeking asylum is part of having that control. You have to vet the people that seek asylum, etc. You have to do a check on them. It's not like he argued that the right to asylum had been used by Moscow and Minsk as a tool of hybrid war. Warsaw has accused Belarus Alexander Lukashenko regime of collaborating with Russia's Vladimir Putin to orchestrate a migration crisis at the EU's external border since 2021. That's like, I'm not sure if this is a fair characterization, to be honest. And the argument that the immigrants from Afghanistan and other countries would destabilize the entirety of the European Union sort of does not seem as strong to me, considering that millions of refugees have been accepted into the European Union within the last few years and no destabilizing has happened. And this has something to do with the fact that refugees from certain countries are considered desirable and good, and refugees from certain countries are considered detrimental, destabilizing, and bad. That is all that there is to it in reality. The head of the Prime Minister's office, Jan Grabiec, later clarified the decision, saying if there is a special agencies of the Russian state dealing with the recruitment of migrants, organizing their acquisition of visas, their flights to Moscow and subsequent transport to Belarus, and then training terrorist groups from Syria to breach the Polish border, that we are not dealing with individual cases which need to grant aid to individual people, but with organized actions aimed at Poland and Europe. Like, this is like, or like, come on. Like, saying that all people seeking asylum from certain countries must be trained terrorists, it's like, it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Like, come on. And then mass migration that is not natural but driven by Russia and Belarus. In 2021, over 8,000 people illegal border crossings into the EU were recorded via the bloc's eastern frontier, up from 677 the year before. The European Union migration policy, and this is important because this course that Poland is sort of taking will put Poland at um, well, at a collision course with the European Union. Again, like the government might have changed, but it seems like Poland potentially might once again butt heads with the European Union over this policy that it wants to enact, the freezing of the asylum seeking procedure. Tusk, no, you don't understand. The whole idea is not that Russia is sending Russia's people to Poland. Russia is taking people from Muslim countries and Africa, like Afghanistan, other countries, and then sending them to Poland en masse. That's the thing, you know. That's the idea. That's the destabilizing factor. And apparently, a lot of them are just terrorist gangs from Syria. That's the basic premise of the whole thing. It's not Russians trying to cross the border. Tusk said he would demand recognition of Warsaw's migration from Brussels, even if he takes a beating for it. He said he would stand firm against the provisions of the bloc's Pact on Migration and Asylum. We will not respect or implement any European or EU proposals if we are certain that they threaten our security, he said. Describing migration as absolutely the most important matter today in Poland, Europe, and the world. Tusk accused the previous government of causing a de facto wave of illegal migration that flooded Poland. We will reduce illegal migration in Poland to a minimum, he said. We will eradicate those practices that effectively bypassed Polish interests and compromise the security of Polish citizens and the Polish state, and we will eliminate these practices entirely. By the way, Poland has historically had an infamously bad migration policy. My friend, who is a lawyer, he has like a big lawyer company. He helps people to get legalized stay in Poland. He also happens to be Vietnamese, so even before he was a lawyer, he had to deal with migration stuff when he wanted relatives from Vietnam to visit him. And he said that getting a permit for a person from Vietnam to get to Poland can be as difficult as getting a permit to get to the US. Okay? And I personally think that it's pretty ridiculous. You know? No, I'm sorry. He did not say that. He didn't say that it's as difficult as getting to the US. He said that actually getting a permit to get to Poland can be much more difficult than getting a permit to go to the US. So my bad. I stand like I just remembered, my bad. Poland was actually for a long time worse to get a permit. Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski said the move was a sovereign decision of the Polish state that would benefit the whole of Europe. Human rights. Tusk's announcement drew strong criticism from rights groups. A lawyer working with the Helsinki Foundation for Human Rights said the move was short-sighted, unhumanitarian, and contrary to human rights, which I will say that I agree with this. I agree with this assessment. It is a very short-sighted move. She also argued it was wholly unjustified in the context in which the Prime Minister sought to legitimize it. I understand that this is all justified by the issue of security and the fight against irregular migration, but on the contrary, applying for asylum is one of the legal routes to get into Poland, which I just pointed out before. Maria Poszytek was quoted as saying by the InfoLegal and Economic website, she added that the right to asylum is enshrined in the Polish constitution as well as in the EU's Charter of Fundamental Rights. Janina Chojska, founder of the NGO Polish Humanitarian Action, told the Onet website Tusk was effectively suspending human rights, which, again, that is correct. That is what's happening here. If the Prime Minister announces something like this, it means that he is also suspending the Geneva Convention, the Human Rights Convention, and many other conventions and laws, she said. Does this mean that they will not be binding in Poland? Like, this is a big problem. This is a big mistake. And again, it will cause Poland to once again butt heads with the European Union. It will, it's just, I don't see why this has to be done. There are better ways to address the problems of the potential hybrid warfare that is being talked about, like better screening of people that come in. Not outright disallowing people to even seek asylum. That is, this is just, that's just ridiculous. You know? I On the other hand, Agnieszka Chłoń-Dominczak from the Warsaw School of Economics said that while asylum is a basic human right under the international law, migration also addresses Poland's shrinking labor force. She added that as Poland's migrant population grows, becoming increasingly multicultural, integration is key. She said, "We need not only migration policy but also social and labor policies that support the integration of migrants into our society." The rhetoric of security and blocking asylum and posing migration as threat in a dominant discourse is only going to make the integration worse and much more difficult for ordinary people. And that is the reality of the situation. It just makes it harder for people that want to get in and contribute to this country, that escape a difficult situation in their own countries of origin. Like, just blankly framing all asylum seekers as tools of hybrid warfare is just horrible policy, and I hope something will change when it comes to this topic within the next few days, because I'm pretty sure that this whole thing is supposed to be finalized or moved forward on the 15th. So let's wait till the 15th and we'll see what will happen. We'll see. We'll get more information. But so far, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm reading, from what I'm hearing, this seems like a completely ridiculous way of addressing the problem. True.